Hey guys, it's Chelsea from Little Mountain Ranch, and before I get into this video, the first thing that I want to do is to apologize for the weird lighting that's going to be in this video. We're down in my basement right now, and I don't have any windows down here, so there isn't any natural light to be found. I do have a couple of lamps set up behind us here, but the lighting is not going to be great, so I just wanted to apologize for that. Today I wanted to give you a tour of my bulk food pantry, which is on this side over here. I've already given a tour of my cold room, which is over on this side. If you want to go check that video, I'll link it down in the description box below and also up here somewhere. I'm also going to give you a quick peek at my deep freezers. I had considered doing a separate video, a tour video of my deep freezers, but when I opened them up, I realized that they weren't really all that interesting, to be honest. In the freezer that we have beside me right here, in this one, I only have about 3 or 4 different items. It's full, but there's only 3 or 4 things in there. And the same thing goes for my 2 other deep freezers that are outside. So I'll give you a quick peek at those just to give you an idea of how I store the food, the other food that I can't preserve either by canning or in my root cellar. I also have a root cellar tour video, and I'll put that up here as well. One of the things I'm pretty passionate about that's probably obvious is growing food and then preserving food. There are several things that I love about growing food and preserving food. I love the act of actually doing it. I love to be outdoors. I love putting up food and then being able to come down and shop from my own pantries. There's something so satisfying about that for me, and I really, really enjoy it. I also love the nutritional value of all the food. I know what I'm growing. Everything that you see here is organic, and that is something that I feel really good about feeding my family. One of our goals for 2020, and I can't believe it's 2020, it seems so futuristic for me for some reason. Anyway, one of our goals for 2020 is to pay off debt as aggressively as possible. And I'm really excited about being able to contribute to that goal through producing even more of our own food on our property. I'm going to be showing you quite a few videos over the next little while of the ways that we're doing that here, and some ways I'm streamlining my systems a little bit. I'm going to be increasing the size of my garden again this year. Hopefully, I'm hoping to be able to get a large greenhouse put up. I'm sorry, my freezer just started making a really weird noise, and I unplugged it to see if it would stop, and it's not. I'm so sorry. Last year's video, when I was filming my pantry tour video, there was a fire alarm that was chirping in the background that drove everybody crazy. I do have my wood furnace right next to us here, and I made sure not to fill it this afternoon so that it would be quiet, because I did try to film this video the other day and the furnace was going, and it made the footage just completely not doable, and now I have this terrible background noise. Right, I think I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes and see if it stops. It seems like it's dying down. Okay, it's still going a little tiny bit, but I have a feeling it is dying down, that it's just gonna shut off completely in a second. So I found a really great website that has really helped me with planning my bulk food storage. So I wanted to share that with you guys. This is the website that I use for calculating the amount of bulk food that I need. So all you need to do is put in your numbers here and then click calculate, and then it will tell you down here all of the different food staples that you need for your food storage. So just keep in mind, this is food staples, mostly dry goods. They have a ton of information about food storage basics, food storage for beginners. This is an awesome site if you are just getting started with food storage. As you can see, it's a super easy site to use. And what I've done is, instead of planning for an entire 12 months, which is my long-term goal, but at this point I found it really overwhelming. We do have 13 members of our family, and that is a ton of food. I think it was something like 2,500 pounds of wheat that I would need in order for a full 12 months. But anyways, what I decided to do to make it more doable for myself is to do a 6-month supply of food. So at this point now, we feel fairly confident that we have a solid 6-month supply of food for our family of 13, which is so exciting to me and really makes me feel proud of myself, and also gives me a little bit of security. The lighting is even worse now that I've pulled the lamp in closer. Sorry guys, this is the best I can do. Okay, as you can see, I have everything stored in these Rubbermaid bins. If you're going to be doing anything that's over 12 months, you really want to start getting into Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers and things like that with your storage. But because I have a working pantry here and I plan to have everything in here turned over within 12 months, a lot of this will be turned over within 6 months, but 12 months definitely at the longest. What I do is I keep everything in its original packaging. So this is just pasta. And I have about 35 pounds of pasta in here, and then I just have it in these bins. 6 months to a year, this is a perfectly acceptable way to store food. I've been storing food like this for a long time, and the only thing that I've had go bad is whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour really should be used within 6 months. It goes rancid pretty much right after that. So that is something that you want to think a little bit more about when you're storing. If you are planning on storing it for 12 months, then you do want to get a little bit more picky about how you store that. So what I have here is I have a box of pasta here, down in this bin here. I have to get my muscles working. I have navy beans stored in here. And as you can see, like I said, it's just in its original bag. I also have organic popcorn, a whole bunch of it. I love popcorn. It is my evening snack here. This bin is actually probably about close to 50 pounds of honey, I think, is in this bin. Yeah, something like that, that I haven't had a chance to process yet. I will get around to that hopefully this winter. In fact, I'm going to need to because I am just about out of honey right now. Okay, over here, this is just oats. We go through quite a few oats because we eat oatmeal every second day. We alternate it with things like cereal, bagels, toast, eggs and bacon, and things like that. But every second day we do have oats. So we go through at least a bag like this every month. This is something I'm going to need to go buy about 6 more bags of this that I have planned for my next grocery shop. And then I'll be set up for 6 months of oats. In this bin back here, this is where I have my whole wheat flour. Now, something that I've learned about buying whole wheat flour is that you are better off long-term storage to buy smaller bags. I was buying the larger bags just from a environmental standpoint. I just thought it was less packaging, but it does turn faster than buying these smaller bags like this. I only bring one of these up at a time. We do a ton of our own baking now. We're at the point where we're not going to be buying any more bread products from the grocery store, so we go through this flour pretty quickly. So over here in this bin, I have brown sugar, and I can't lift the bag out because it's huge. I have 50 pounds of brown sugar in this bin, and it surprisingly stays pretty fresh this way with just one of these lids on it. I am going to give you a kitchen tour as well, so I'll show you how I have all of this stuff stored in smaller containers up in my kitchen just to make it easier so we don't have to come down here all the time when we need things. But down over in this bin down here, I'll see if I can bring you closer without losing the light. I have a ton of brown rice. We use both brown and white rice. The same thing goes for brown rice as it does for brown flour or whole wheat flour, is it doesn't last unless it is in an airtight container. So you really want to make sure that you only buy what it is that you can use in 6 months unless you're going to store it in a oxygen-free environment. And one of the things about getting older that I dislike the most, I actually don't mind getting older, but it's the fact that my knees, like when I'm crouched down, my knees just die and I feel like an old woman when I go try to stand up. Anyway, I have a ton of pasta stored over here. I think total I have about 150 pounds of pasta stored, and I still need to get, I think it's another 50 pounds of pasta in order to have the amount that I want to have. And then over behind me here, I just have all of my larger kitchen appliances that don't fit up in my kitchen. And over here in this bin, you can see through the side here, this is split green peas. And down below, whoa, oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Down below here, I'm not going to bother lifting all of this stuff off. I hope you don't mind, but I have this entire bin is filled with rice as well. Back over here, I have pasta, black beans here. This is filled with black beans, red lentils here. Down here is red kidney beans, and then down here is black and navy beans. We use a lot of navy beans in our cooking, so I always have a ton of those on hand. Okay, so down here I have lots of olive oil, 3 big jugs of olive oil down here. I also have Heinz tomato ketchup. Tomato ketchup is something that I have made in the past, but I just find it super time consuming, and my kids love it. So I always buy some of that. On this shelf, I store just some of the smaller things that I don't need the big bins for. I have a lot of salt. This is green, or green. It's not green. What is wrong with my brain today? It is gray. This is 22 pounds, and I have this one I bought almost a year ago. Might even be a year ago, actually. And then I have another full bag down here. So I have a lot of salt. I also have cocoa powder. We use lots and lots of cocoa, so that is a Dutch cocoa powder. I have a year's supply of liquid soy seasoning, a bunch of peanut butter, icing sugar for baking. I just have a couple of those. We bought a bunch of crackers for New Year's and Christmas, and we actually haven't used very many of them, so I'm gonna have to bring some of those upstairs. Crackers is something that we don't usually buy outside of special occasions. I buy a lot of my bulk goods through a place called Horizon Distributors, and I'll link that down below for anyone in Canada, but it's similar to Azure Standard down in the United States. Everything is organic and fair trade. So I bought a whole bunch of baking cups. I think I have 10 boxes of those. We just got a dishwasher after not having had one for a couple of years. So I have a whole bunch of dishwasher tabs, baking soda, baking powder, apple cider vinegar, the salt that I just showed you, regular vinegar, matcha tea, lemon oil, and some rice pasta over here. Okay, this is actually cheese thermometers. I ended up buying a kit and it came with a bunch of extras. So I'm not sure why they got put there. Some applesauce that should actually be in the cold room, more baking powder, more vinegar, and then a bunch of the herbs that I took out of my garden, and that is the same for up on this shelf. So I have rose hips, red clover, tarragon, parsley, rosemary, peppermint, more rosemary, more rose hips, some tahini, Earl Grey tea. I'm a huge fan of Earl Grey tea, green tea, and I use this to make Jun tea. And basically that is a kombucha that's made with green tea and honey instead of black tea and sugar. Cornmeal in back here. And then up here is basically just kind of a, you know, whatever wouldn't fit on the other shelves. I have some of my canning stuff, my juicer attachment, some salt, just a mishmash of a bunch of stuff that just didn't have anywhere else it could fit. The area that pantry is in was originally built to store all the firewood. There was a firewood chute from outside, but we have a different place that we store our firewood. And so I just converted that by adding up at the top there. You can see there is a curtain rod there and just some curtains. And I was worried it would get too hot in that space with the furnace right beside it, but it actually doesn't. It stays quite cool there. I'll show you one of my deep freezers now. I have 3 22 cubic foot deep freezes. 2 of them are filled right now, and one of them is just about empty, waiting for some beef that'll be filling that up. And then I also have a secondary fridge, and I have those 2 freezers that are with the fridge as well. So this freezer here I have stored down at the bottom here. These are chicken carcasses that I have not had an opportunity to process yet to make chicken broth with. On this shelf, this is all cauliflower, broccoli, kale, zucchini over here, more cauliflower up there. You guys were asking me during the summer how I store my broccoli and cauliflower, and this is how I store it. I blanch it for 3 minutes and then freeze it in the freezer. I have tried processing it in other ways, and it just does not store very well. You can dry them and then reconstitute them for soup, but well, I have access to a freezer and I can freeze food, I am going to keep freezing these because it just works the best. And then up at the top, up here, there is several chickens and a whole bunch of yeast. I buy my yeast in bulk like this and then just keep it frozen, and I've yeast be over 2 years old and come out of the freezer and work just perfectly fine. I buy peppers in bulk and then I cut them up and freeze them. You don't have to blanch peppers when you are freezing them. They work just fine like this. And this summer, that's one of the things I'm hoping to be able to do is grow all my own tomatoes and my peppers by getting a greenhouse. So I'm really hoping that's going to be able to work into the budget this summer, because that would make a really big difference and push us even closer to being self-sufficient, which would be really exciting. My other deep freezers outside just have meat in them. So I have pork, tons of pork. I have lots of bacon and sausages and all that kind of stuff in those freezers out there, but it's really cold, so I'm not going to head out there right now. The number one question I seem to get about my food storage is whether I deal with rodents or with bugs in my food storage. And the short answer is no, I don't. And one of the reasons that I don't is because, as you could see, most of the things that I have stored are in Rubbermaid containers, which does protect them from both bugs and from rodents. We also have a very dry climate here, so I don't have a lot of issues with things going bad because of like molds or anything like that. Although I do have a story to tell you about all of my squashes and what's happened to them in storage that I'll probably do in an upcoming video very soon, because I'm going to have to deal with the problem right away. But as far as the bugs and rodents go, I don't really have an issue. If you have any comments about my food storage, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be totally willing to answer any of your questions if I can, or send you in the right direction. Before I go, I just want to send out a huge welcome to our new patrons over on Patreon. Craig, Stephanie, Lisa, and Kettle Haven Ranch. Thank you guys so much for supporting me over there. I really cannot say thank you enough. I appreciate each and every one of you guys so much. And each and every one of you over here on YouTube that support me by hitting the thumbs up button and leaving comments and sharing my videos and all of that. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye guys.